All right, so I guess we can go ahead and get started. That's one benefit of recording everything is that we can always just kind of start on time. All right, so first off, my name is Matt Mosley, so I'm going to be your instructor this semester. You can call me Matt, you can call me Dr. Mosley, you can call me Steve for all I care. It does not matter, okay? I am not a formal person. You do not have to be formal with me, okay? Now, I do have a PhD. My PhD is in genetics and evolution and population stuff like that, or population genetics. And I primarily studied lizards and snakes and frogs and things like that. So I am not a medical doctor. Okay. So if I give you anything that sounds like medical advice in this class, one, it is not. And two, you do not have to trust it. Go talk to your doctor. Okay. We are going to be talking about some heart-related stuff and lungs and all kinds of fun stuff that people do have questions about and things like that. But keep in mind, if I do say something in here about how things typically work, that part will be correct. But if I do give you any advice on how to kind of utilize that, that is, once again, just kind of not meant as medical advice. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I'll also probably joke about stuff, so keep that in mind as well. Now, this class I have kind of laid out to where it's as straightforward as it can possibly be, or at least as straightforward as I can imagine it being, okay? Whenever you log into Blackboard, we're gonna do everything in Blackboard. We're gonna do everything in this single Blackboard shell right here. Lab and lecture all gonna be found in the same place. We have our Start Here module, and then we basically have all the content laid out in these 4 exam blocks, okay? Because today is the first day of class, we do have to do the syllabus stuff. Oh, did not make, oh, yeah, that's supposed to be there. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and open up one of the syllabi and take a look at it. I'm sorry, I know y'all are like, we went through this last semester. Well, I have to go through it again, unfortunately. I know this is the worst part of the class. All right, so this class is basically going to work the same way as A&P1 did. Did all of y'all have A&P1 in the first 8 weeks here last semester? No? Coming in blind. Nice. It's fine. This is fairly straightforward. Like I said, I will basically tell you what I want you to know, and it's your job to learn it. Okay. And I'll present the information as straightforward as I possibly can. Now, A&P2 is going to be over the endocrine system, the cardiovascular system, immune system, the lymphatic system, respiratory, urinary, and reproductive. It's a lot, okay? However, unlike A&P1, where you had the entire first exam be things about like, oh, the cell, scientific method, and all these kinds of things, tissues, we don't have to mess with that anymore. Or chemistry, that was a big one for a lot of people. Because that was multiple undergraduate courses worth of information shoved into one exam. We don't have to mess with that here. Instead, we're basically just going to be every week and a half or so, we're going to cover a different system, okay? That's basically going to be our fairly simple layout, okay? Now, office hours. My office hours are going to be from 8:30 to 10 in person on Mondays and Wednesdays. So basically you can come see me before class on Mondays and Wednesdays. I have 2 small kids that go to school in Tyler, where we live. So I just simply can't be here before 8:30. I've tried, it just simply doesn't work. So 8:30. And then I also have office hours from 8:30 to 12 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those are going to be virtual office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays, though. Okay. This essentially means that if you send me a message and remind, I'll answer it basically immediately. If you send me an email, I'll answer it basically immediately. But also, if you want to talk to me on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'll just make a Zoom meeting ourselves and just kind of meet virtually that way. So it should be fairly straightforward to do that. But if those times don't work, say like, hey, I have class on Monday and Wednesday, but I schedule everything else on Tuesday and Thursday, but you still want to talk, that's fine. Just message me and we can make up a time. My schedule is actually fairly open. We can figure something out, okay? Whether it's you want to talk on the phone or via Zoom or whatever, we can figure something out, okay? So just message me to let me know. The easiest way to get a hold of me, especially if you just need like a quick response, is going to be in Remind, okay? The Remind app, you can see here, this little link right here, this takes you directly to the Remind app where you'll sign up once the Remind services are working. It seems like they're on and off right now. Click that, sign up, and it basically lets you send text messages to me. So that's the easiest way to get a quick response. I do answer emails. I do answer Blackboard messages. It's just Blackboard messages. It may take me a couple days to get to them because I usually don't recognize that I have a Blackboard message until Blackboard sends me an email telling me that I have a Blackboard message. So it just kind of simplifies my life a little bit to kind of ignore that part, at least for a little while. Now, the book, we do require the textbook. The textbook ISBN that is listed right here. If you open this, or if you were to click this into Amazon and try and purchase it that way, it will take you to something that is not what we need. Okay, this is basically a standalone ISBN that is just for our campus. That is a discounted rate and everything like that. So that's why it's going to be a little different. It will include access to the ebook, as well as a bunch of material online through what we call McGraw-Hill Connect. So it's going to be the ebook. We're going to use their virtual labs. It also gives you access to a bunch of other study tools that they call smart books, and there are extra quizzes. There's a whole bunch of information in there that we will be making use of. So we have to have the ebook and Connect access. Purchased through the publisher, it is actually going to be cheaper than if you were to go and purchase it at the bookstore. But I'm going to show you how we're going to get to that publisher information, how to do all that here in just a second. All right, as far as grading is concerned, grading in this class is fairly straightforward. So lecture, it's broken down into 4 exams. Combined, those are 55% of the grade. However, I will replace the lowest of your 4 lecture exam grades with the final exam. Okay, so this means that your final exam can be worth upwards of like 35% of your grade. Okay, so the comprehensive final is, well, comprehensive. It's going to cover information from all 4 modules. But like I said, it will replace your lowest module exam if need be. We're also going to have quizzes for every chapter. So there will be a lab quiz and a lecture quiz for every chapter. There will be a lab exam and a lecture exam for each module. They're going to be due on the same day, and they're going to cover much of the same material. The lab stuff will mostly focus on your identifications and functions, whereas you're going to have your more in-depth function questions kind of in the lecture portion. But it's still all about the same information. So that's why we have everything into the same Blackboard shells or anything like that. If you've ever taken anatomy and physiology in another course, or maybe you took it in high school, where they tend to talk about things separately, like, oh, you got lab stuff and then you have lecture stuff. Here, it's mostly combined because it's all the same stuff. Something looks the way it does in lab because it does what it does in kind of the lecture portion. So we try and talk about things a little bit more integrated that way. So there's your 55% for your exams, 22.5 for the quizzes, 22.5 for the final. But like I said, we can also use that final exam grade to replace your lowest non-zero lecture exam grade. All right, if you have any questions about kind of not course-wide, but campus-wide academic policies, that link is going to be found here. This is anything from academic honesty, communication, all of that fun stuff. You're going to find all of those policies in there. All right, attendance. So the lecture portion is completely online. We do not meet at all in person for the lecture portion of this class. So I'm going to show you where you're going to find all of those lecture videos and all of that stuff. Now, because we do not meet in person for specifically the lecture portion of this class, the lab portion will be a little bit more lecture-y than a lot of A&P labs might be. That's basically just to kind of try and bridge that gap just a little bit, okay? Is you are going to be considered attending the lecture portion by completing the quizzes and stuff like that for the lecture, okay? As far as late work is accepted without an excuse. You don't have to tell me if something is going to be late or why it's late or anything like that. I will just accept it. And everybody also gets kind of a freebie on one bank of lecture assignments. So all of the assignments for module 1 are going to be due the same day, okay? So say some of those are late because you had to take your kid to the doctor or something like that. You don't have to tell me they're just late. Just turn them in whenever you can, and I will ignore that they were late, okay? I won't deduct any points off for that first submission of late assignments. Now, say you submit a bunch of stuff late for module 1, but then when it comes to module 2, you submit some other stuff late. Well, now I will start to take off late points for that, just because we don't want to see this become a systemic problem. We want you turning things in on time, but I understand that life happens. So I try and be fairly reasonable. But really the main thing is just turn your stuff in and we'll be okay. Title IX, basically, if you see something, say something. That's essentially what this amounts to. If I hear about any sort of sexual harassment or anything like that that has occurred, I do have to report it, though. So just make sure you keep that in mind. Disability services, if you have any learning disabilities, dyslexia, dysphonia, or anything like that, make sure you talk to the disability services people and they will tell me how to accommodate that. And I will make sure that I accommodate you as quickly as I possibly can. But you do need to go through the disabilities office. Then there's some stuff about kind of course-wide learning objectives and how we handle all that. So let's go ahead and look at the lab syllabus. It's basically going to be the same, except for one part. The part that's a little different in lab is that we have virtual lab exercises, okay? This class is what we call a high flex class. This means that you can attend this class either in person, like you are now. You can attend online, like live via Zoom. So just to give you an idea, there are people in Zoom right now, okay? That's why I have my earbud in. It's not that I think I look cool or anything like that. I have never thought that literally ever, but especially not right now. But I'm doing that just so I have a good microphone and I'm not just relying on the inbuilt one here in my computer. We have live Zooms, so you can attend class via the live Zoom if you prefer. There is a link in the Start Here module that lets you join that. And then finally, the last option is that I am also recording everything that I'm saying right now, and then I will post those recordings to a YouTube video, and then I will link that YouTube video somewhere in Blackboard for you to view later if that's how you choose to attend class. This basically means that you can attend live or you can attend like via recordings and stuff asynchronously. However, this is a lab, which means we have some lab stuff that we are going to be doing, okay? Which means we have to have some way for people that are doing all of that stuff online to be able to do that. And that's where these virtual labs are going to come into play. These are essentially just going to be some assignments that you are going to click on in Blackboard, and they will take you to McGraw-Hill Connect, and we will do some laboratory activities there. Some of these are going to be simple, like, okay, I'm just going to kind of click through identifications the same way that if you were in here in person and messing with a model, you can say, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this, this is this, and move on. Other times it may be experiments. Like one of the things that I'll walk us through today is some moderate torture of a virtual goldfish. We're not going to be torturing any goldfish in person, but we can at least kind of see what some of these effects are going to be in there. Now, this means that for in-person people, you will still need to be doing some of these online virtual labs, okay? There will be a few cases where you will not have to do the virtual labs, and I will tell you what those are, kind of the days of. A good example of this is the day that we go over the urinalysis. And if you want to, like, if you come to class that day and we do the urinalysis in person, I will not require you to do the urinalysis virtual lab. I will, before you leave class, go in and enter a grade for you for that virtual lab. Does that make sense? That way you do not have to do those. So if you come to class in person, some of the virtual labs you will not have to do, but there are some that you will. It's just going to kind of depend on what we're doing in class that day and how it corresponds to the virtual labs. But this way, folks that attend online for any given day can still make sure that they do all of the stuff that they need to do. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, now to make sure that these do all get done, they are worth 5% of your grade. So we do need to make sure that we're doing those. If you don't do the virtual labs, that will give you a 0 on all of the assignments associated with the material in that virtual lab until those virtual labs are done. So we have to make sure that we do those. That is very important. That's especially important for the online folks. All right, so here's our breakdown. 60% for our practicals, 35% for our quizzes, 5% for our virtual labs. The practicals, this is going to be our 4 module practicals, and then we also have a comprehensive lab practical at the end as well. But that one is basically just considered a standard practical grade. And I will drop the lowest non-zero practical score at the end of everything as well. So once again, you kind of get a little bit of a mulligan on one of those exams as well. The rest of this should be about the same. We've already talked about attendance here. All right. Any questions on course policies, procedures, or anything like that? Does it all make sense? Seems reasonable? Awesome. Like I said, I've tried to, basically this class is set up in the way it is to try and be as flexible as possible, because I understand that people's lives need to be flexible. People work, people have kids, all that kind of stuff. And we have to try and, or I like to try and deal with that as best as we can. Did I update this? What is the deal with that horrible formatting? Well, I will replace the terrible formatting. I don't know why it looks as wonky as it did. Probably because I did it on, or in Pages. And that's, yep, that's exactly why it looks the way it did, I bet. Either way, I'll get this fixed so it looks at least a little prettier. Here is our lab schedule. It basically is going to tell you when everything is due, as well as what we're covering on any given day. So today's the 20th, so we're going to talk about the endocrine system. On Wednesday, we're going to go over blood. That one's going to be especially fun because we're doing blood typing, and we're actually going to do that in person. So if you want to know what your blood type is, we'll tell you. Okay, so we're going to both talk about how blood typing works and all that kind of stuff and do normal stuff dealing with blood. But we will also talk about how we measure blood typing, and we'll test your own. And we'll also go ahead and look at some stuff like blood sugar levels and stuff like that in class next time as well. And then next week, we're going to have a full week to where we're going over the heart. On Wednesday of next week, so on the 29th, we will actually have some hearts to cut up. Okay, so we will have a heart dissection on Wednesday of next week. So that's another great day to make sure that you are here in person, because I don't know, how often do you get to cut open a heart? And so on and so on and so on. Basically, the schedule is going to show you when everything is, as well as when those assignments are due. None of these are due May 8th. Apparently, I forgot to change that word to December. This is what happens when you have kids messing with you, like while you're trying to write stuff in a Word document. All right, so there's our schedule. It also tells you when the exams for each of these are. You'll notice that there is going to be some overlap from one section to the next, like where we may be covering. So for instance, we're going to start the respiratory system on the 10th, but you'll be testing on module 2 information on the 14th. So there's a little bit of overlap there. This is basically just to give you some extra time. I try to give you at least a handful of days at the end of one set of material to be able to study for that exam. And particularly for this module 2 stuff, there's a whole bunch of physiology to go over. There's not a whole lot of anatomy, but there's a whole bunch of physiology. So I try to give you enough time to learn all of that stuff. So that's why the schedule looks the way it does. Any questions on that? Oh, sweet. All right, so if you wanted to attend class via Zoom, the link for Zoom is right here. Basically brings you to the virtual class that we've got going right now, which I said, or like I said, will always be open anytime we're in here. And I have the chat window open and stuff like that. So people can ask questions and talk the same way you would in class. All right, let's keep, where'd my marker go? There it is. Now, anytime you see one of these little red squares, these red squares are going to take you to McGraw-Hill Connect, okay? Whenever you click this on your computer, it will take you to a new window to where you will get to see McGraw-Hill Connect. You're going to see this button here, launch, takes you where you need to go. However, I can't do this in student view because it just doesn't show you what I want it to show you. But it will take you over to our McGraw-Hill Connect page. Now, when it takes you over to the McGraw-Hill Connect page, it's going to take you to a screen where you're going to log into McGraw-Hill Connect using your student ID, okay? If you have never made a McGraw-Hill Connect account, you'll make one just like you do for the other 19,000 other services that you probably have, that you have emails, addresses, and stuff set up for. Just make sure that you're using your student ID number and your student email. If you don't use your student email here, some things can get a little wonky whenever we're trying to kind of get grades to go where they're supposed to go, okay? Now, once that has happened, it will then provide you with 3 purchase options. One of those options will be to purchase directly from the publisher. Purchasing from the publisher, it is $106 after tax, okay? And that will get you access to the ebook, as well as all of the McGraw-Hill Connect materials. That is the way to do this. The other option is going to say enter an access code. If you enter the access code, that's what you would, or where you would enter the information if you bought an access card from the bookstore. But the bookstore is going to charge you quite a bit more for that access code than the publisher does, something like $50 more. So I would recommend ignoring the bookstore if it were me. Okay. If you have the ability to just purchase this with your own funds and purchase directly to the publisher, do it that way. If you have to use financial aid or anything like that, that is where you would need to go through the bookstore. And unfortunately, it's just a little bit more expensive that way. I don't know why. It really annoys us. We're trying to figure out how to solve that problem. We just haven't quite figured it out yet, unfortunately. So the third option that it's going to give you is that it's going to give you an option to start a 14-day free trial. Everyone should, at the very least, if you're not sure which of those two purchase options you want to use, at the very least, start the 14-day free trial. Because that can get you in the course and doing all the stuff that you need to be doing there, which is like reading the book and all of that fun stuff. Go ahead and open this up. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm trying to pull up a window for McGraw-Hill Connect. I promise I'm not just back here playing solitaire or something. Really? We're just not going to show this other window? There we go. All right. So when you log into McGraw-Hill Connect, once you have made your account on McGraw-Hill Connect, you can log into it directly going to connect.mheducation.com. I will open up a link in Blackboard to let you go to this page. You essentially log in, and this is going to take you to a screen that'll look like this, where we've got our orientation videos and virtual labs and stuff like that here. If you want to read the textbook, you're going to see those options over here on the left-hand side, so you can read the textbook here. We also have a practice atlas right here, which is also very useful. It's going to have both dissections as well as pictures of the models that we have in class, or at least very similar models. And you can use that to explore a lot of the same structures and stuff like that in there. Okay. Then you're also going to see some folders with the virtual labs that are required for each individual thing. Don't pay attention to the due dates that are in here. I have this due at the end of the class. Just that way you can submit them as late as you need to should something happen, you can't get them done on time or something like that. So you can either launch them through here, like launch them through Connect, or you can launch them in Blackboard. Either way it will work. But we've also got access to a bunch of other materials down here, whether it's anatomy and physiology. So a couple of you said that you didn't take AMP1 here through us the last 8 weeks, at which point this basic anatomy review may be a great thing for you to try. And it's basically going to be like a little assignment. You click begin, and it will kind of show you how to walk through some of these things. Like, okay, what are the different planes? What are the directions? And all that kind of stuff. And it will walk you through some of the relevant terms that we're going to be using throughout this semester of the course as well. So this is one of the other AMP or anatomy and physiology revealed. This is another kind of one of the study tools in here. So make sure you're using these things. We have a lot of really cool tools that you have access to, and I'll show you a couple more over the course of the semester as well. Now, as far as the general flow of the course, so like what we're going to be doing on any given particular day, this is where we're going to have our individual modules. When you open a module, you're going to see a few things. You're going to see a folder for each chapter. You simply click the chapter that you want, and then you're going to see an outline, a PowerPoint, any virtual labs that are required for that chapter. And then you're going to see practice quizzes and the lab and lecture quizzes, okay? You get 2 tries at every quiz. So you get 2 tries at both the practice quizzes and the actual lab and lecture quizzes. So this gives you a chance to see more of the questions, as well as a chance to, once again, kind of have a little bit of a mulligan. Should you not have studied as well as you thought you had before you take one of the quizzes, you don't do that great, you can take it again. to see how you do. And I will also always take the highest of the scores, okay? So say you make 100 on your first attempt, you're scared that you're going to lose points if you take it again. Don't worry about that. I'm just going to take the highest score. So you still take your second attempt so you can see more questions and stuff like that. Does that make sense to everybody? 2. 2 for each practice quiz and then 2 for each regular quiz. All right, now the outlines are going to show you whoa, that looks funky. Are going to show you the stuff that we need to do, as well as what graded assignments there are for each one. This is also where you're going to find any of the recordings for that particular chapter. And of course, there's an ad the first time I click it because YouTube is doing YouTube things. So we can see that we've got, in this case, it's a lecture video and stuff like that. So this is where all of those things are going to be posted, is inside these chapters. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that these are mostly going to be short form-ish videos. So we're talking anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes long, where I'm typically going to talk about a particular topic, rather than it being an 1.5 or 2 hour long video where I go through the entire PowerPoint or through the entire chapter. If there is a topic that you see in the PowerPoints that I don't have a video on, that you want one on, like say you want more explanation over a particular topic, tell me, and I will make a video for you, okay? And I will post it in this list, okay? This lipid soluble versus water soluble hormones is actually one of the ways that we got that video here. It was just 2, and then someone was like, hey, can you talk more about this particular thing? So I made a video to talk about it, okay? So if it's missing, like say you just want more background information over a particular topic, tell me and we can talk more about it in here and I'll make a video for you. Does that make sense? This just saves me having to have like a big 2 hour long video for all of these things that no one will ever watch. It just tries to make things a little bit easier. It also is going to highlight any relevant portions of the text, like, hey, pay particular attention to section 17.1. And then within that, pay attention to particular things. If there is a structure list, so a list of things that you need to be able to identify, that structure list will also be posted in here under this sort of lab activities heading within the outline. Does that make sense? And then we also have some additional study guide information down here. This is basically the learning objectives for each chapter. If you can read through this and say, oh, no, I can absolutely describe the homeostatic system that's involved for controlling homeostasis and how that works within the endocrine system, then yep, we're good. And then so on and so on and so on and so on. Okay. And then finally, there's also some information down here as far as supplemental content, whether it's lab recordings and all that stuff, but usually those lab recordings are up here. But if I have found any other YouTube videos or something like that that I find relevant, I'll post them down there as well. Does that make sense? So you're essentially just going to walk yourself through each chapter. Here's the PowerPoint for the chapter, virtual labs, all that stuff. And then once you're done with all that, move to the next chapter. And it's going to look the same. Everything's in the same order. Same thing down here for the next chapter. Once you've done all of these things, then you can take the exams, and those are going to be down here. But you'll notice that the exams are not available yet. It says that they're going to come available the day before they're due, okay? So the exams are going to open 48 hours before they're due. This gives you basically 2 days. And for all of our exams, I've given you, with the exception of the final, I've given you access to at least 1 weekend day for that exam. I know that people have busy lives, but hopefully if you can't find time during a weekday, hopefully you can at least find time on a weekend day to be able to sit down and take a test for an hour or 2. Everybody good? Make sense? On average, probably around 50. And for the lecture exams, it's going to mostly be multiple choice, and then there will be roughly 1 essay question per chapter. And those essay questions are not really essays. It's more like an answer over the course of 2 or 3 sentences or something like that to describe a topic. Most of the time, it's going to be some variation of talk to me about how form follows function with respect to some structure within this particular system. And that's basically it. So that's going to be it for chapter or module 1. And then we're going to do the same thing for module 2, module 3, module 4. And then finally, we've got the final. Yes. Yes. The essay questions are typically going to be worth about 5 points apiece, or the equivalent of 5 multiple choice questions. So yes, not answering those will have a large detrimental impact on your grade. Or vice versa, answering those really well will help you out quite a lot. I also grade those pretty nice for the most part. Unless you say something in there that really annoys me, like how our goosebumps do anything to help us with thermoregulation or something like that. That one particularly annoys me. So don't say that. Chat GPT, by the way, will tell you that the erector pili muscles, which are these little muscles inside your skin that allow you to raise your hair follicles, Chat GPT will tell you that that is for thermoregulation, that will help you warm up. I can see through my hair, which means I don't have enough hair to where raising them up is going to do anything to help me trap a layer of air underneath my hairs that I can then warm to where it's like putting on a jacket. Because that's what it's for on a dog or a cat or a bear or any other mammal that has thick fur. We don't have that. So F you, Chat GPT, you're effing wrong. And that's how everybody that answered that way got a 0 last semester on that question, just because it annoyed me and it also told me that they cheated. Because it's not what I said. That's not what the book says. Okay, that's actually not. I didn't give them zeros, but I did deduct points on all of their essay questions for that because we all have soapboxes, and that's one of mine. Y'all will find that I have a few more this semester as well. All right. So any questions about kind of course policies, procedures, or anything like that? Everything makes sense? Everybody good? Online people, y'all good? All right. Oh, if you do have any questions about connecting to like getting Connect access, so through McGraw-Hill Connect, there's a little PowerPoint right here to help you do that. Helpful links, this is basically just a list of links to anything from food banks to Kilgore College assets or anything like that to be mindful of. We've also got some stuff in here for study tips. So this is basically a big Word document that I've written to basically tell you how to study, not just for this class, but how to study for literally anything. Because your brain learns information in a very particular way, and we can kind of hijack how our brain learns stuff. And this, if you follow these tips, this will actually help you utilize your brain's machinery to learn things more quickly and more effectively. And then we also have a how to be successful thing. This is essentially just not quite study tips, but it's basically how to handle the information in the course at essentially an order of operations for how I recommend doing stuff in the class to maximize your grade. So this is how to maximize your grade. This is actually how to learn any information. Everybody good? Can we talk about sciencey things, please? Thank goodness.